Now we're going to take you over to Berlin. Angela Merkel, the Chancellor, is speaking now ahead of an important gathering of international leaders to discuss the euro. Let's have a listen in.
Wahrscheinlich noch nicht mal Präzision, aber nichtsdestotrotz. Sehr geehrter Herr Bundesminister.
They were saying if the euro fails, then Europe fails. Those were her remarks yesterday.
Sehr geehrter Herr Kommissar, lieber Michel Barnier, meine Damen und Herren, ich
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very much delighted to be present here today among you, attending this financial market conference that takes place on invitation of the Federal Finance Ministry. Wolfgang Schäuble has just mentioned it. This is an interesting moment in time for such a conference. When we talked about the Finance Ministry actually hosting such a conference, we thought that the moment in time for this conference should actually focus on the G20 meetings in Canada. However, we find now that all you delegates have now come in a most interesting time for Germany, because it is especially in this very week that we in Germany have a discussion in Parliament on the rescue shield for the euro, and hence this means that we undergo major efforts in order to safeguard our currency. And of course, this is a decisive decision, but it's also a very difficult decision to take. And of course, the weaknesses of the joint economic and currency union is at stake, and of course we need to draw conclusions for the future. What we have experienced throughout the last 3 years is a sequence of crises. First, it was the collapse of banks that actually asked for state intervention. Then we witnessed a decline in the global economy, which again asked the state to step in with the stimulus packages. Then the excessive debts of states, that was something we actually saw coming, because when we launched our rescue packages we somewhat feared that. And now of course we have a critical reaction of the markets to this weakness, because high deficits or excessive deficits of states are of course a weakness for a balanced growth in the future. What was quite striking was, what was clear was that no country could actually solve this problem on its own, but that it needed international coordinated action, may that be within the framework of the European Union or globally. And it is right and important that the group of 20 actually has taken over a leading role, and that this group of 20 has been institutionalized throughout the last years, and that it actually will be the one forum for the global economy in the future. Globalization is now to be found within this G20 group. I mean, you know, we had long discussions. Is G8 sufficient? We extended it to an additional G5. And during this economic crisis, it became clear to everybody that the G20 is the most important group for the future of the global economy. So when we talk about stabilizing our own European currency, the euro, of course, then the question that was put in the room, if I may say it like so, the question says, in how far can actually this currency union and the eurozone take those internal tensions and bear with them? And I think we gave a clear political answer to this question, which was yes, we stand firmly together, because this common currency is of utmost importance for us and brings so many advantages and benefits to every individual Eurozone member state. And this, of course, actually goes far beyond the purposes of the internal market, and that is why we were willing to take all necessary political steps. Observers of this whole situation, of this whole process, witness that this is a difficult process that requires some very tough negotiations. It is somehow some sort of competition or a debate on the question, do we actually manage to act in a spirit of solidarity while at the same time keeping to the solidity and the stability of the currency? And what was decisive throughout these days was, and what was of utmost importance, was that the decision for the euro was strongly influenced by the commitment that every country will make its contribution to the stabilization of the euro and must do so. And that is why the Stability and Growth Pact is not just any pact, but is the precondition for the well-functioning of this union. So a softening of this pact actually had been allowed, and that actually has hidden throughout years that the pact was not fully fulfilled throughout the years. It was not adhered to properly, and by means of speculation, of course, these weaknesses have become even more visible, and it is now up to us to get down to the roots of these problems. And I am of the opinion that we have managed to do so during our tough negotiations. And what we now need is to actually tighten up the Stability and Growth Pact, and actually this Friday there will be a task.
Well, it's Angela Merkel who is preparing to address a group of leading international economic and political leaders on the situation regarding the euro. We're covering it here on BBC World News.